What people do, humans in general, and in this example, women of this kind or that have experienced such things, it's really easier for them to focus on how the world is being unfair to them rather than to do the work and ask themselves, how am I doing the same back to the world? Because I've noticed from my experience that when something bothers me so much, like really, really so much that I can't let it go, it's that it is within me. When I'm really ranting about someone, it's because I can see my flaws in them. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I recently read a book that I totally recommend you to read it as well. It's called Unplugged Alpha by Richard Cooper. To be honest, the book is actually addressed to men, so I kind of felt a little bit of like an intruder to read it. It was really interesting to see what men think about women, and even more important, what a healthy individual thinks about women. And especially a man that has gone through divorce and gone through heartbreak, and he felt on his own skin the negative aspect from feminine side, let's say. For some of you that don't know about Richard Cooper, he's just a car guy, passionate entrepreneur, started to talk in his car about what matters to men. What he stands by is helping men understand how to deal with their life, with money and women. So basically they won't end up in a train wreck with their life. So one of the quotes that really, really interests me, and I thought he had such a good point, and I just wanted to share it with you as well, quoting: "Ultimately, men live in a difficult time today as we're living in a feminine first primary social order. Men must embrace their masculinity and completely surrender to the notion that by employing masculine virtues, there is a place for men to become the best version of themselves in today's world." And I totally agree with that. One incident that I had lately at the gym, one of the instructors to lead maybe 3 women and a couple or a few more men to a fitness class, and he turned on the music and then he was talking really mousy. And mind you, this guy is a gym guy. I think he was 5'9", if you will, and muscular because he's a PT, so he's meant to be in great shape. But he was really mousy. It was really weird because the voice didn't seem that was coming from that body. And I was thinking that, dude, this guy must have had bad experience with women in the past, and now he's really close by. So I went to the guy and I said, would you like a feedback? It's not going to be a good one, but you could basically try. And I said, bring your masculinity into play. You're the leader and we're following you. But because he was so mousy and I don't know, he couldn't get himself together, and everyone couldn't follow, and we were annoyed because we wanted to get on with the things, and he wasn't leading. He seemed like he was trapped. He was somehow trapped, or he was kind of concerned to let his voice loud and really dominant, and how a man should be. So I told him that, and I said, because you're the leader, we look up to you. You have to make your presence felt. You have to be loud, and this is where you are, and everyone should look at you, pay attention at you, not giggling in the back, whatever. This is what we're doing, and so on and so forth. It's necessary for you to allow your masculinity to flow in a constructive way, because the gym example, people won't follow you, and it's really frustrating because it's frustrating for both parts. We want to follow you, and you as a leader, you just don't make your presence felt, and it's frustrating for you as well because you're not allowing be the man that you are, basically. So yes, so men, regardless of what women say, I think it's your responsibility what you feel when you interact with the world. As long as no one is attacking you directly, you are the sole responsible for how you feel. Please be masculine. The world does need masculine men. Another good one is quoting: "Society, culture, religion, the government, mainstream media, and Hollywood all lie to us. Which is why I believe wholeheartedly that a man's true mental health and happiness begins with an ability to navigate through life, seeing things as they truly are, not as we've been told they are." This is one thing that really helped me understand as well. And I think a lot of us think that life and relationships are like Hollywood tells us. And when things don't happen that way, we think it's something wrong with us. Not only that, we don't know how to relate to people as well, especially if you're coming from a family that your parents didn't quite do a good job, or they weren't quite a good example for you as a family, and they didn't teach you how to love or how to respect, or how to live your life basically. And I think that's kind of a lot of us. I mean, it's really difficult to find grown-up people. And I mean grown up, especially psychologically. And since you don't have grown-ups in life, obviously they're not going to do a good job raising children. So yeah, that was the point as well. I think a lot of us fall for the Hollywood idea, and that's not it. Life, it's not how anything that you see on your screens, unless it's, I don't know, maybe it's happening in real life, in real time. I think that is real life. Other than that, everything is staged, everything is proper put in place for you to see, how we want you to see. Even now, this is not real life. I'm gonna play you a video at the end of this clip to see the real life, and it's not so nice when you look at it. So anyway, quoting, "One of the most difficult concepts guys struggle with today is that men live in a female-first social order. A lot of the madness and the nonsense that has happened recently with women versus males and so on and so forth is that women have gone really, because they have rights now, they went into war zone. Like they want revenge because their life sucks basically. So women, since they're not driven by testosterone and their body doesn't quite help them being aggressive in the real world, they go after you socially. But you already know that it's not about toxic patriarchy anymore, even though they want to insist that that's what it is. It's about toxic femininity, and it's about being socially crazy. So and I bet men are struggling with this, how also how women used to struggle when male were dominating overall I don't know, I can't say the planet because, I don't know. We all, don't get me wrong, we are dominating the planet as a species, but what I want to say that men used to dominate before the social everything basically. Men used to dominate what women were allowed to do and so on and so forth. Hence now the coin flipped, and then women gone crazy as well, because this is what happens. This is what I think happens when one has the power corrupts, right? So when men had power, they were corrupted by it. Now women have the power, obviously they're corrupted by it. So the average man has been fed a steady diet of silly narratives his entire life, such as women are oppressed, the patriarchy is evil, masculinity is toxic, all men are rapists, women are victims, and women get paid less than men for the same work. In actuality, none of these narratives bear any close resemblance to the facts. This outrage is manufactured by a female-first primary social order, originating from a toxic version of feminism that is no longer about equality, but rather female dominance and male submission. This was a surprise. I didn't quite understand. I didn't know that men were being brainwashed with the same narratives. To me, I thought only women were sole believers in all this. Men have done and men are, and so on and so forth. I'm not sure if all this femininity are trying to do is to dominate, and to basically they want the men to be submissive, because the majority of women like to be dominated, even though they don't like to say it. But if the right person comes and they're dominated, they're gonna respond to that because men. I'm not sure if that's the case. It's really dodgy, all this stuff, because I do have a sense, or I do have a slight feeling that when the world is going crazy, I also think there's something to it. I also think there's someone more powerful than us that allows this to go forward. I mean, people want to earn, people always want to gain something from it, and I don't think in the end, like we already know, the most powerful people on earth are men. Why would those men or would allow to all this nonsense to take place if the aim of the feminism would be to create more submissive males? I wonder if they don't want us they want to make us more stupid. And yeah, I don't know, I'm getting into conspiracies. No, that I don't have any valid point here anyway. Third wave feminism isn't even close to being about equality. Rather, it's about female dominance and male submission. I'm not sure about that. That's really weird. I would disagree with that. I don't think it's about male submission. I think what happened, and this is my observation or just a conclusion, it's not backed up by any facts, it's just what I've observed lately and through my experience, is that a lot of people, like I said previously, they have not been raised properly. And that includes women as well. Because it's really difficult, and I'm sure most of you, if you've done the work, you know about it. It's really difficult to be someone worthwhile, to be a person, and not to behave like one. Don't get me wrong, all of us, that's what's really annoying, that all of us have the potential to be so admirable, but even though we have that potential, and it is within us, we just choose. That's what's really annoying, that even though we have so much potential that lies within us, it's really easy for us to let ourselves down, and ultimately the world. I think what happened is that, this is like a side note, I haven't exactly made myself clear what it is that I'm on about and why I seem to defend men and so on and so forth. And the truth is that I'm not defending men. If I'm anything, how could a woman at the end of the world could, do anything to defend men? I think men are more stronger than I am, so they can defend themselves. I'm not here to defend men, and equally, I'm not here to defend women either. The thing is, I'm trying to be as neutral as possible and also stay in the truth as much as I can without being deluded by without being deluded by my own ego and biases. So I think what happened with feminism today is that, you're not going to like this, but I do believe that men have been suppressing the world in general, and women had to suffer the most, because this is what happens, in the hierarchy of the species, women are weaker than men. Obviously, a woman is as valuable as a man, as far as I'm concerned, but women are weaker physically. So in a world where animals had to compete with physicality in order to dominate the world and the food around them, in order to hunt and basically have food and be safe, you have to have strength and speed and all that stuff, and women don't have that. So I think that's what happened. Men were more dominant because women couldn't do anything about it. I think that's what it is. Obviously, the history was written, and what happened is that when the suffragettes finally had enough and they started all this, when they started the feminism, they had a point as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't like to live in that world, even though obviously it had its own good parts, but I like the modern world. From hygiene and the food and the comfort that we have, I prefer to be in the modern world. But obviously it had its good aspects. Allow all the responsibility to be on a man's shoulder, and the woman would have done woman stuff. But at the same time, it was really restricted, and I wouldn't want to live in that world. I can't imagine having to not be able to do anything, then play the piano, and probably you learn to speak how many languages and just read only the books that I was allowed to. It's really restrictive, and we'd be hypocrites to think that that wasn't the case. When you're around many women, as a woman as well, what one does, everyone does, because that's how we survive. I suspect that when men used to go hunting, women, they have in their own circle, and it's really dangerous if women would be as dominant as males, because can you imagine, by the time men would have come back home, they would have found women killing each other's baby and so on and so forth. So I think that's why women are so agreeable, and they're also so nice with each other, and they're also copying each other in order to, I think the nature made this in order to keep us out of the conflict as much as possible. because we were left a lot of the time on our own with the children and so on and so forth. So I think that that's a really cunning way of keeping women in place, if you will, by evolution. Mind you, this is a really simplistic idea that I have, but because men have displayed a lot of toxic masculinity in the past because they could, women from back then had enough. They wrote the history and they were teaching the young women to do the same and so on and so forth, and that was really good for women back then. I mean, I don't think if it's a feminist that I would like to thank to, it's all those women that they really were risking their lives in order to want to drive or to want to read books that they weren't allowed to, or wanted to marry with who they wanted to, rather than being sold by their parents, because yada yada yada. So I'm really thankful that all those women literally had the balls to go against men's balls in order to give us the rights we have today. So that's really humbling. I wouldn't have that courage to do that. But the problem is with the modern feminism now. So why are all these women have lost the plot? Well, I think there's a connection between parenting and how women are today. Because if you think about it, but the thing is that how women behave now, we all behave. It's not like feminism behaves in a way that you've never heard of, or only women do that. No. So what women do is, because they've suffered traumas in the past because of their parents, their father, or so on and so forth, and now that they're grown up, instead of dealing with that trauma, like I said, because you have the responsibility to deal with your own emotions and trauma. Granted, you don't have any responsibility when the harm is done to you, but once the harm is done, what happens within you, and after that, you have the responsibility to deal with it, so in order to be functional in the world. But because if you think about it, there's so many bad things in this world, but we are choosing the ones to focus on. Why don't I rant about homosexuals, or why don't I rant about, I don't know, racism? Why don't I rant about, that the grass is green? Well, because that doesn't bother me, because I haven't done anything like that. What I rant about is about women being not decent, women being crazy, because that's what I've done as well. My hair is rising when I see women doing what they're doing, and because that's what I've done as well, because, that's why it's pissing me off so much, because I can see them fucking up their life of their partner life and their children's life, and that's just driving me crazy, because here I am. I think that is the problem. I think a lot of people are broken psychologically, and they can't relate to themselves, never mind to people. So I don't think that feminism is about making men submissive. No one wants men to be submissive. We are women. Most of us are responding to masculinity, because if you are heterosexual, you're going to respond to masculinity. Well, if you're a lesbian, that's a whole other story, but that's such a minority of people. All these women that rant about men, they're not lesbians as far as I know. And if they are, then I don't know, dude. I don't know what to comment on that. I hope I made a little bit of sense. And like I said, to be honest, the video was meant to be more about the book, but looking through my notes, there's so many good points that it takes me so much to comment on every one of the points he made. And like I said, I agree with some of the things he said, with the majority. I don't agree with some, but hey, that's okay. That's what I wanted. Even though I had a little bit of the, how do you call that? I almost went along with everything he said, maybe to get approval. I had the sense that, oh no, I have to go along with everything he said. And then I said no. I had to ask myself, are my values standing do I really think that what he says it's valid? And I mean, within my values and my beliefs and what I think and how I have experienced the world. And yeah, some of them not, but that's okay. I don't mind. I'm glad that that happened. And if you're a man and you really want to basically be more healthy in life, rather than focus, those women are like that, and so on and so forth, don't do what they do. It's really easy to become like them so fast. When you spend a lot of time and energy complaining of a certain type of people, you kind of become like them. And that takes away the time away from your life and what you have to do and get on with your life in the end. People are, to say the least. But in the end, you have the responsibility of your own life, regardless of what other people do. So yeah, I totally recommend you to read the book. And if you want to check up his channels, if you want to check out his channel before you get into the book, so you see the way he is and what type of content he makes, yeah, just feel free. I think I'm going to put his channel in the description box. And yeah, that's it. I think I hope I brought a little bit of value in your life and hopefully introduced you to something that you might enjoy. And yeah, until next time, see ya. Because, excuse me.